Welcome everyone. Today we are going to paint and detail this little kit from Pete's 3D Scale Models. It's the Beer Tap and Bar HO Scale Kit. Lots of cool 3D printed details, so let's get started. So the model comes in two pieces, which makes it a little easier to paint, and it also has the graphics that you can cut and glue on separately. There's a couple of cool upgrades that you can do for this kit, including a mirrored back to the bar and also lights in that canopy, and we're going to show you those. There's a little bit of preparation to do with these 3D printed parts. A little bit of sanding on the bottom takes away the flash from the supports. Once the model's ready, spray a coat of primer. Now you're going to want that color to be the final color of your countertop to make the bottles easier to paint, and you'll see that later. Now this model can be challenging to paint, but it is doable. I used a very fine tipped brush, wore some simple magnifying goggles, and I took my time. I used a hair dryer to dry in between each coat and didn't worry too much if I made a mistake. Can always go back and touch it up. These are all the colors I used to get some variation when painting these bottles. Nothing fancy, just some inexpensive paints. And after all the bottles are done, I went back in with that countertop color and just tried to touch things up. For the drain grates and the bar taps, I needed something that was sort of chrome or stainless steel. So I used this Vallejo Model Air aluminum. It was nice and thin, so that when I painted around all of the detail parts, it flowed in there really well. Now for the canopy and the back of the bar and the base cabinets, I used a raw umber, multiple thin coats put on here, and it came out okay. Now one of the upgrades you can do to this kit is to light that canopy by putting the nano LEDs in through the holes in the back. And if you're going to do that, you're going to want to paint up inside that canopy black to prevent the light bleed. And once the base cabinets were painted, I dry brushed with a gray to bring out all the detail in those handles and doors. Now you can leave that wall right behind the bottles gray, and it looks pretty sharp, but that brings us to our second upgrade that you can do for this kit. To make it look like a mirror, which a lot of bars have behind them, you can use reflective tape or aluminum foil, or I just happen to have this flue tape laying around. Whatever you happen to have, cut a small piece of it and glue it or stick it to that bar back, and you can flush it right up against that cross shelf. Now, one mistake I made when doing this was not making sure the edge of the tape was perfectly smooth. I saw that it had some bumps but thought that I could smooth it out afterwards, and that wasn't the case. So I would suggest cutting a nice fresh edge. But after it's glued on there or stuck on there, just go ahead with your X-Acto knife and cut along the outside edges and trim it to fit. Now the model comes with some graphics that you can cut and glue on to the back of that bar if you want to. Now they're pretty small, and so I find the easiest way to do it is to cut them out in the middle of the page and make 4 nice easy cross cuts with your ruler and X-Acto. If you try to cut the thing out and hold it with some tweezers and trim it with some scissors or something, it really just doesn't work very well. One of the ways to get these graphics to look their best is to make sure that the edges are colored. Now, sometimes you can get away with just using a black marker to color them if it blends in okay with the sign. And then sometimes, depending on the colors, I just take some magic markers and paint the edges of the paper with the color that matches the graphics. Now, once all your graphics are ready, you can just spread a little bit of white glue on the back really, really thinly. And I would suggest sort of laying your signs out first as a dry run before you start sticking them on there. They can be a little fiddly, but just take your time with your tweezers and sort of nurse them into place. And then you can use a Q-tip or something to flatten it out. Don't use too much white glue or it'll ooze out and make a mess. And here you can see, like I did, I got some of that glue on the bar back. Luckily it was covered up by the base cabinet. Now a great upgrade here is to add lighting to this kit. I'm using some cheap nano LEDs that I got off the internet. Now the bar back comes pre-molded with 3 holes, and they can fit these nano LEDs right through there. I've also tried this with the Woodland Scenics nano LEDs, and they fit in there also. All that's left to do now is to glue the 2 pieces together. I'm using a super glue gel here and plenty of it, but I really wanted it to stick. So here it is, all lit up, and I am thrilled with the way that this came out. The level of detail that you get with a 3D printer for HO scale is really great, and taking the time to add the lighting and the mirror back really takes it to another level. You can find this kit and more 3D printed detail parts for model railroading and structures on Etsy. Pete's 3D Scale Models.